Clinical trials are a vital part of the search for new treatments for cancer. They may involve a process which is looking at the safety of a new treatment through to whether it looks like it's more effective than existing treatments, right through to a comparison with the existing treatment in what we call a randomised phase 3 trial. These days we don't usually accept the treatment for cancer unless it has been proven in a randomised trial to be superior to existing treatments. No cough or shortness? Of course, participation in a clinical trial is entirely a voluntary decision. It is important to talk to your doctor about the clinical trial.
Yeah, that looks all right, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, I'm pretty pleased with that. Well, virtually all new treatments in use for lung cancer today have been thoroughly tested and evaluated in clinical trials.
There are a number of new types of treatments for lung cancer that have been developed in the last few years. One class of drugs that's been particularly successful has been the epidermal growth factor receptor inhibitors, or the EGFR inhibitors. So these are medicines, but they're not chemotherapy. The way these drugs work is by targeting the epidermal growth factor receptor. So this is a protein or a receptor that sits on the surface of the cell, and the drug links onto the receptor and interferes with its activity, and by doing that is able to kill off the cancer cell. So there have been a number of drugs developed that target this receptor. A couple of them come in tablet form, but there's also one that comes as an intravenous drip form. And it's been found that these drugs can be very helpful for certain groups of patients with lung cancer. They tend to work most effectively in people with a type of non-small cell cancer called adenocarcinoma. And also they've been found to be most effective in people who've been non-smokers, as well as people who are female and of Asian background. But also actually the drugs can sometimes work in people who have none of those characteristics.
I've just been on a clinical trial, Tarceva, and that was a bit different. I broke out in a terrible acne rash all over my body. And the doctor said that was good because the worse the rash, the better the treatment works, apparently.
And although people don't like having a rash, the doctors are often quite pleased to see a person develop a rash on one of these drugs, because sometimes the person developing a rash can be a sign that the person's actually going to respond to the treatment. Another class of drugs that's been developed recently are drugs that target the blood vessels within a cancer. We know that for a cancer to grow bigger than a pinhead, it has to develop its own blood supply in order to get enough oxygen and nutrients to grow. And it does this by releasing various chemicals that cause the blood vessels in the surrounding tissue to sprout new blood vessels that then grow into the cancer so it can grow bigger. And this process is called angiogenesis. So there are a number of new drugs which are called antiangiogenics that inhibit this process of blood vessel growth and thereby starve the cancer of getting oxygen and nutrients and prevent it from growing. And there's been a number of these drugs developed which have been designed to give together with chemotherapy, and they can be suitable for some types of patients with lung cancer. However, not all of them are yet approved by the government for use, so some of them are quite expensive, and they're also not suitable for all patients with lung cancer, because we know that they can cause problems with side effects such as bleeding or clotting, as well as high blood pressure. So they're not suitable, for example, for a person that's already coughing up a lot of blood from their lung cancer.